Your mind is not a playground. It's a battlefield. And on this battlefield, only one of two things can happen. Either you conquer it or you get conquered by it. Every single day there is a war going on between your destiny and your doubt, between your calling and your comfort, between your purpose and your programming. And that war is not happening in your bank account, your business, or your environment. It's happening right between your ears. See, what most people don't understand is that the biggest enemy they'll ever face is not outside of them, it's within them. It's the voice that whispers, "You're not good enough." It's the thought that says, "Who do you think you are?" It's the belief that convinces you to shrink when you're called to shine. And if you don't recognize that voice as an intruder, you'll treat it like a roommate. You'll let it live rent-free and dictate the terms of your life. You don't lose the war of success when you run out of resources. You lose it when you run out of resolve. The mind will always offer you an escape route when things get hard. It will always tempt you to go back to what's familiar. But familiar doesn't mean fruitful. Comfort zones are where dreams go to die. And it's the mind that builds the fence that traps you inside. The mind is a master negotiator. It will give you 99 reasons why you can't and only one reason why you should try. But that one reason, that divine assignment, that vision you were given, that seed of greatness inside you, that's what you must fight for, because the mind left unmanaged will argue for your limitations and win. But when you take control of it, you can make it argue for your possibilities and dominate. There's a reason why so many people stay stuck in cycles of failure, fear, and frustration. It's not because they don't have talent. It's not because they lack opportunity. It's because they never learn to govern the territory of their thoughts. If your mind is cluttered with doubt, confusion, comparison, and criticism, you will never have clarity long enough to walk in power. What you meditate on becomes what you magnify, and what you magnify becomes your master. If you constantly replay past mistakes, failures, and betrayals in your mind, you are programming yourself to relive the pain instead of releasing the power. You cannot create a new reality with an old mindset. You cannot access abundance thinking while clinging to survival thoughts. Too many people are trying to win with a defeated mentality. They want $1 million results with $10 beliefs. But the mind doesn't produce what you want, it produces what you plant. If you want to think like a champion, you must sow champion-level thoughts. That means replacing fear with faith, excuses with execution, and self-pity with self-discipline. This battlefield isn't about noise, it's about strategy. The enemy doesn't show up in a red suit with horns. He shows up in procrastination. He shows up in insecurity. He shows up in doubt disguised as logic. The reason you haven't moved forward isn't because you're incapable. It's because you've been convinced in your own mind that what you carry isn't valuable enough to be seen. Your mind is a factory and every thought is a worker. Whatever thoughts you allow in are building the framework of your life. If you allow negative, lazy, fearful thoughts to dominate, they will construct a reality of lack, fear, and frustration. But if you command those workers with clarity, boldness, and purpose, they will begin to build something beautiful, something worthy of the assignment on your life. It's not enough to be aware of the battle. You must engage in it daily. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you win ground. Every time you speak truth instead of echoing fear, you win ground. Every time you wake up and decide to keep going when you feel like quitting, you are taking territory in your mind that cannot be taken back. People want to know the secrets of success. They want the tactics, the tools, the formulas. But the truth is, all of those things will fail you if your mind is broken. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your mental conditioning. And that conditioning is being shaped right now by what you believe is possible for your life. It is impossible to rise externally while you're collapsing internally. You may have the skill, but if you lack the mindset, you will sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. You'll find a way to disqualify yourself before the game even begins. That's why people walk away from open doors, because their mind hasn't caught up with their miracle. The war in the mind is subtle. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't come through enemies, it comes through familiar patterns. The thoughts you entertain without challenging are the ones that will eventually chain you. And the tragedy is that you will think those chains are protection when really they are prison bars. What you permit in your mind, you will practice in your life. If you allow small thinking, you will live a small existence. If you normalize limitation, you will settle for mediocrity. If you excuse your fears instead of confronting them, you will live your whole life behind a curtain, never stepping into the light of your own greatness. Every breakthrough begins with a mental rebellion. You must get fed up with the lies. You must revolt against the beliefs that keep you bound. You must overthrow the mental monarchy of fear, shame, and scarcity. That revolution starts with one decision: to no longer believe the voice of the past more than the voice of your purpose. The mind is your greatest ally or your most dangerous adversary. It can be a throne from which vision reigns or a dungeon where dreams decay. And the difference is who you allow to rule it. You must become the king or queen of your own mental domain. Because when you take the throne of your mind, everything in your life bows to that authority. Most people are waiting for life to change before they change their mind. But it works the opposite way. The shift must happen internally before it ever manifests externally. Until your thoughts change, your patterns won't. Until your patterns change, your outcomes won't. And until your outcomes change, your legacy remains locked. This is the war nobody sees. The war with doubt at 3 a.m. The war with comparison scrolling through your phone. The war with quitting every time it gets uncomfortable. These are the battles that shape your future. And they're not won with motivation. They're won with mastery. Master your thoughts. Master your emotions. Master your story. This war is daily, but so is your authority. You don't need permission to take control of your mind. You need intention. You need awareness. You need discipline. Because when you understand the power of the mind, you stop allowing random thoughts to write your story. You become the author, and you begin to write with boldness, with vision, and with purpose. Thoughts are not just mental noise, they are seeds with power. Every thought you think is either a seed of destiny or a seed of destruction. And just like in nature, whatever you plant will grow. No exceptions. The law of sowing and reaping applies to your mind just as much as it does to a garden. You don't get to sow negativity and expect a harvest of peace. You don't get to plant doubt and expect a future of boldness. Whatever you put in the ground of your mind, you will live in the harvest of it. If your life is not producing what you want, it's not the fruit you need to examine, it's the root. The root is your thinking. The way you think about money, people, opportunity, identity, and God is the soil that determines the quality of your harvest. You can't change your life until you change your seed. The problem isn't that you're not working hard. The problem is that you're planting weeds and expecting wheat. Most people don't understand how powerful one single thought can be. A thought can build a business or destroy a family. A thought can launch a movement or start a war. Everything in your life started as a thought. Your habits, your beliefs, your attitude, your decisions. They were all first conceived in the secret soil of your thinking. You may not have seen it when it was planted, but you are living in the harvest of it now. The challenge is that we often plant unconsciously. We don't guard our gates. We scroll, we listen, we absorb, and we let toxic seeds drop into our spirit without resistance. Thoughts of fear, lack, shame, comparison, and criticism. They sneak in through conversations, songs, shows, and social media, and before we know it, we're growing a garden of anxiety and don't even remember how it got there. Intentional thinking is not about being positive all the time. It's about being purposeful. You must take responsibility for what you allow to take root, because once a thought becomes a belief, it becomes a stronghold, and strongholds are not easily removed. They take time, truth, and spiritual warfare to pull down. That's why prevention is better than deliverance. Plant wisely now so you don't have to uproot later. You don't plant seeds with your hands, you plant them with your focus. Whatever you meditate on, dwell on, and rehearse in your mind, those are the seeds you're watering. If you spend your time imagining failure, preparing for rejection, and predicting loss, you are cultivating a garden of defeat. But if you meditate on vision, on purpose, on divine promise, then you are preparing a field for fruitfulness. Every conversation you have with yourself is planting something. Self-talk is not just harmless chatter. It is the act of sowing. When you say to yourself, I can't do this, this won't work, I'm not enough, you're planting weeds of limitation. And the mind, like any fertile ground, doesn't care whether the seed is good or bad. It just grows what it's given. The soil doesn't argue, it obeys. You must train your mind like a gardener trains a field. A good gardener doesn't just hope for good plants. They plan, they protect, they pull out what doesn't belong. You can't let any old thought stay just because it feels familiar. Familiar doesn't mean fruitful. Sometimes the most comfortable thoughts are the most damaging because they blend in while they break you down. If you grew up around lack, it's easy to plant poverty thoughts without realizing it. If you were raised in chaos, it's easy to plant thoughts that normalize dysfunction. But just because something was your past doesn't mean it has to be your future. You can choose what you plant from this moment forward. You're not just a product of your past, you are a steward of your present. The harvest you're expecting must match the seed you're planting. You can't expect peace while rehearsing conflict. You can't ask for clarity while feeding confusion. You can't demand excellence while tolerating mediocrity. In your thoughts, the level of your thinking must rise to the level of the life you claim you want. Planting with intention means deciding what kind of life you want to live and then reverse engineering the thoughts that support it. Want a wealthy life? Plant thoughts of abundance, stewardship, and generosity. Want a healthy life? Plant thoughts of discipline, balance, and self-respect. Want a purposeful life? Plant thoughts of identity, contribution, and divine assignment. It's not just about planting new thoughts. It's also about uprooting old ones. Some of the most dangerous seeds are the ones we planted years ago, seeds of trauma, rejection, failure, that we never removed. And now they've grown into beliefs that block every blessing. They tell you you're not worthy, that success is for others, that love is conditional. These are not harmless weeds. They are soul-level thieves. To plant with intention, you must become vigilant. That means you don't let every thought stay. You challenge it. You test it. You ask, does this align with where I'm going or where I've been? If it doesn't agree with your future, it has no place in your present. Thoughts are not facts. They are suggestions, and you don't have to accept every one of them. You don't need more motivation. You need more mental discipline. Every thought that enters your mind is either contributing to your destiny or contaminating it. That's why Scripture says to take every thought captive. Don't let thoughts run wild and expect to stay grounded. You must be the gatekeeper of your mind, not the victim of it. What you repeatedly think becomes what you eventually believe, and what you believe becomes what you receive. So if you've been praying for more but thinking less, your thoughts are canceling your own requests. You can't plant limitation and expect elevation. You can't water doubt and expect a harvest of miracles. The mind and spirit must agree. You don't have to plant based on your history. You can plant based on your vision. Just because you've failed doesn't mean you have to plant fear. Just because they left doesn't mean you have to plant abandonment. You can choose a new crop. You can decide today to plant thoughts that speak life, that affirm your value, that reinforce your calling. Thoughts shape atmosphere. Walk into a room full of faithful thinkers and you'll feel energized. Walk into a room full of negative thinkers and you'll feel drained. The harvest of your thoughts doesn't stay in your head. It becomes the environment of your life. Your relationships, your emotions, your decisions, they are all responding to the seeds you're sowing in silence. It's not enough to want change, you must seed change. Every goal, every dream, every transformation, it all starts with a thought. You can't build what you haven't first imagined. And you can't imagine something you've never allowed yourself to think. What you allow to grow in your mind will eventually overflow into your world. Motivation is a feeling. Mindset is a foundation. You can't build a skyscraper on emotion. You can't construct legacy on inspiration alone. Motivation may light the match, but mindset keeps the fire burning when the storms hit. That's why mindset will always outrank motivation, because it lasts longer, digs deeper, and stands stronger. Motivation is situational. It's tied to the moment. You hear a speech, watch a video, read a quote, and suddenly you feel unstoppable. But then life happens, your plans hit resistance, your energy dips, your expectations aren't met, and what happens to your motivation? It vanishes. Because motivation is emotional, and emotions fluctuate. Mindset, however, is built through decision and repetition. It is not dependent on